So during release week, stores were running a sealed event where you get 4 booster packs and you would make a 30 card deck and play against your opponents doing the same thing. Other stores were running a starter sealed event where you would get a starter deck and 4 booster packs and you would make a deck out of that one. Well, if you guys want to get into the loop, be sure to subscribe to my channel, and I appreciate all of you guys who have been a part of the conversation. So for those who have been following me, you guys would understand that I went 12-1 in 3 sealed events. So essentially I went 5-0 on one event, 3-0 in another event, and I went 4-1 on the last one. So I'm just going to go over the quick rules real quick. Again, as I said, you get 4 booster packs, so you make your deck. It's only minimum 30 cards. I personally don't recommend going any way higher than 30 cards. There are no mill cards in this particular set. For example, if there was cards that trash cards from your deck, you might need to invest in more, but in my personal opinion, there is no reason to ever go above 30. And your deck can contain any color, so you just literally just put all the cards you get literally into a deck. So in this video, all I'm going to do, guys, is just give you some pointers on what cards I think you should get and what cards you should ignore. I can't go over every single card, so use this video pretty much as a template to better your judgment as you're going through this event. Alright, first let's talk about 1-drops. Do we include them? Personally, I would not, unless you literally pull a crap ton of these. Like if you were to pull like 8, some absurd number of 1-drops, maybe then you could take advantage of it, but otherwise, like, they really just feel really bad. The type of card you're going to be going for when it comes to units are essentially the middle ground. I'm talking any 2 cost, 3 costs are going to be more important, and your 4 cost guys. Cards like Cancer that you usually probably never play in Constructed become very good here because you are taking advantage of that 3 health, because a lot of players are going to be using their 2/2s, so you may even see yourself getting favorable trades with cards like Cancer. Of course, you still use your 3/2 bodies. These guys are just generally strong. It knocks out the EX base and can pretty much kill all cards that are level 4 and lower. You know, if your opponent drops something like a Shenlong, your 3/2s can go into these and defeat them. I would try my best to fit in every single card that has the keyword breach in it. Guys, this is going to help you a lot. You're probably going to breach more here than you ever would ever. Sealed becomes almost like a mini race more so than you would find in the constructed max, where in those maxes you're trying to optimize your way of winning. This one you're just kind of like playing back and forth and trying to race, and breach helps you get there a lot faster. So definitely try to fit in every single card that you get that has breach. Even cards like dual Gundam, if you have a way of buffing this, maybe perhaps you pull a pilot that gives you +2 attack, then this becomes online, so that should even be in there, even if you have just one of those pilots and just one dual Gundam. Now this should go without saying, include as many blockers as you can. Lifrith, of course, goes extremely hard in sealed mode because it has 4 in the toughness, and it can also deal some damage back, and it can also attack. It doesn't have his little brother Zort around because that is from a starter deck, so Lifrith's gonna have to pick up all the heavy lifting. Even cards like Violent Custom that has a conditional blocker effect become really, really good. Again, this game is like a race, so they're going to be trying to lay as many creatures as possible. This card gets blocker more times than you would expect. So if you have this is an auto include as well. For 4/2 with 3/4 stats is really good. Don't just look at the fact that, oh, it doesn't always have blocker. The stats are definitely decent as well. Another set of cards to look for are anything that has support. Support is extremely strong in this particular format because it allows you to adjust your math. Because unlike Constructed, you can't make a deck where you understand how much attack power you're always usually going to have. In this case, you just gotta get what you have, and something like Buku giving you +2 support is going to be crazy. Buster Gundam goes extremely hard in this particular meta as well. Just being able to have one of your 3/2s or even a 2/2 with Buster Gundam knock out your opponent's base, or get favorable trades over their big guy if they happen to land a big unit. Alright guys, so when it comes to your level 4s now, you're pretty much probably going to favor the ones that actually have 4 in defense than 4 in attack. However, the 4 in attacks are still pretty good. Use them if you have them. Honestly, I would just use every level 4 you pull and put them in a deck, with the exception of very few. Something like a Strike Gundam performs very, very well because, again, you can knock out almost all of the level 3s and lower. Now, some of these cards you have to understand, some of the links are impossible to get because their link, like Kira in this instance, is found in a starter deck, so you're never going to worry about that. It's just about the stats here. Linking actually in this particular format is going to be something that's very, very niche. If you have the ability to do it, I will go ahead and put it in if it is worth, but we're going to go ahead and go over the pilots a little bit later here. Now to our level 5s. This is the weird range for me. I didn't really have too many level 5s in my deck. A lot of level 5s usually need a very specific addition or to even be better, but there are some level 5s cards that really actually put in work here. Like something like Adzam. Your opponent is going to be rushing to fill their board, and you may actually tag your opponent with Adzam in this particular format, and of course it has a 5. in its toughness stat, so that becomes really difficult for your opponent to deal with. Even if a 1/1 pilot will give this a 3/6, and Adzam is going to be running into a lot of different cards. So this one is actually pretty strong here, guys. All right, now when it comes to the big boys, the Shamblos, the Proto Zeros, the Justice Gundams, the big guys you're gonna get, I would just throw them in the deck. Maybe 2 max if you happen to pull so many. For example, something like a Big Zam is extremely good. Don't worry about the deploy effect, the fact that it has that 6 in toughness and that 5 attack, and of course it has a breeze keyword. We have all the things that we want here. This becomes a really good card. Something like Shambo, this is a decent card as well. Yes, it only has a 5 in defense, but this is pretty much going to kill anything it attacks into. One thing to understand, guys, you're pretty much always going to hit your 10 resources in this format here. Now, I probably saw my 10th resource almost every single game except for a couple where I just happened to just outrush my opponent in certain things, and that even then, that probably only ended in like turn 5 or 6. Alright guys, there are some cards that are super obvious to put into your deck, like Wing Gundam Zero. If you pulled 4 of these in 4 of your packs, you play 4. That's that's just how it's going to work. There is definitely some cards you absolutely have to put in the deck, and there's absolutely some cards that you cannot. For some units that I will try to avoid, something like Unicorn Gundam, where the level is too high for its cost and its stats are pretty low, and it also doesn't do anything unless you have a Merida Cruise. Getting 12 cards in the graveyard is half your deck in sealed, so never hope for that. This card will only be an inclusion if you have nothing else to put in whatsoever. Stuff like that. Here's another example of a godlike card that is actually really awful in this particular format. This card requires, of course, your shard to be in the graveyard in order for it to be amazing, but that's an impossibility here. 4 costs in level 4 just to play a 4/3. There are so many other 4/3s out here. The other Gelgoog, for example, becomes a way better card to use. It is 4/3 and it costs half the amount, and essentially does the same exact thing, because again, the other Gelgoog you can't use into effects. Triple check on the viability on some of your effects, guys, to see is it a possibility, and look at the stats. Quite honestly, long story short, you're gonna favor stats over anything else. Now let's talk about some bases, because these are the cards that a lot of people are having confusion over. Some people say play every single one that you find, and some players are putting like 6 to 8 in their deck. Again, you only have 30 cards, and others are saying only play a couple. In my opinion, I'm more in the second category, where I just say just play the best ones and maybe no more than 4. Now, of course, this really depends on your overall build. If a lot of your units are really high, you didn't really get any low cost unit, you may need to include a little bit more bases than not, and sometimes you may even include a base that you can't even use as effectively. For example, if you get the 13 tactical and you don't have any academy in your deck whatsoever, you might still need to include this in your deck just for that extra, just 0-5 slow your opponent down, because again, this is kind of a race that you're conducting against your opponent. But with that said, if it is a race, this kind of also slows you down, because this isn't a creature. Your opponent dropping a whole board of creatures and you having another base in your hand thinking, oh, I'll just drop this when the next base is destroyed. That's not really good game plan. All right, let me just go over some of the best bases in this particular format. Kusanagi is probably number 1. This is the best base that's you're probably going to play in sealed. This is the high tempo. Again, if you're playing that race versus each other, you're going to be able to maybe even burst this out, play a base, draw a card, and of course knock out one of your opponent's creatures back to their hand. I said knockout, but just return one of the creatures back to their hand. I pulled only one of these in one of my sealed events, and it definitely helped me win. Literally my final match for the sealed event, my first sealed event that I went to. I was trying to tell everybody this card is nuts. I believe this card is actually going to be really good and competitive once the meta shifts a little bit. I know a lot of people are just going the control route, but that's not going to last. I'm telling you guys, that's not going to last. If you're spending all this money on these decks, you might want to just take a back seat, because the people who have the counters, they're not telling you what they're playing, because they just want you to keep playing those 2 decks so we can win. The Nihil Argama is a fantastic base. Again, it's similar to Kusanagi, but not as strong, but it also allows you to set up those kill plays, or at least maybe move some of their blockers, if they have any, out of your way. Now, generally the blocker's HP is usually higher than what this can rest, but if you at least got some damage on it before, you can at least move it out of your way, and this can become a key card as well to win the game. And obviously, if you get Underground Desert Base or the other one, Mining Asteroid Palo, I thought it was Plateau. These ones are just really good. They cost only 1 at level 2, and that 0-6 is even harder for your opponent to get through than in constructed. So this card becomes extremely good. And for one of the last best ones ever, side 7 is insane. Just constantly being able to +1 your guys back to healing health, making some of your units getting like a 2-for-1, or maybe even some of that elusive 3-for-1 sometimes. I was able to heal some of my guys all the way back up to full after sustaining 3 damage on it, just because my opponent couldn't really worry about that creature, and they were deciding if they're going to hit side 7. Side 7 has that low HP for a reason, because this is constantly giving that HP back to something else on the board over and over and over. Guys in the comments, if you play this card in the sealed event, let the other guys in the comments know how good this card is. Alright, let's talk about the command cards. Now, I would say this. As an overall rule, you should try to not include any commands in your deck whatsoever. Start with that. And then, if you have a command card that is so good that you cannot go without it, then you play it. That's my rule. So, for example, if you pull an Overflowing Affection, you play this card. If you pulled 4 of these in all of your packs, you play 4 of these cards. A lot of people would say, no, you don't, because your deck is only 30 cards, but getting to your piece faster, getting more things on the board faster than your opponent, this card will help you win the race. The same thing with the Show Resolve. Day 1, I pulled 1 of these. Day 2, I pulled none of these. I only had some Overflowing Affections. In day 3, I had 2 Show Resolves and no Over Reflections. And I would say this, those have all contributed to my winnings. Being able to pull some of these cards. And I will say, if you did not pull any card that has the word draw in it, it might be just that much harder for you to win the game. Cards that are actually not good at all in constructed become actually really good here. Loney's Spotlight is in sealed. If you pull Loney, you might actually want to put one in your deck. Again, it helps you with that race. It gets some of those problem cards out of here. Dealing 3 damage to anyone you want to, you are going to absolutely hit level 6 in this particular format, and you are more than likely always going to have multiple units on the board, and you and your opponent are going to be playing the Mexican standoff, and Extreme Hatred can actually start breaking that standoff up. Overall, the type of command cards you should be trying to play over the rest are going to be the command hybrids, that it can also be a pilot. So this one here has a really decent effect. It affects almost your opponent's entire deck, other than like maybe the 5 or 6, and that probably only be like 1 or 2 of, and it can also be that +1 attack to any of your guys. So I would try to consider any of the command cards that are hybrids. Long story short, you're looking for those command cards that don't have too hard of requirements to get to. Like this one, not too hard. You're probably gonna be slinging a lot of damage in this particular format here. But overall, think of it this way, guys. If you don't have any command cards in your deck, you're probably doing just fine. If all your command cards are bad, then I wouldn't include them. Alright, here we're just going to go over some cards that are pretty good and also pretty bad. So something like Naval Bombardment is in the bad category. I would not include this whatsoever. But yes, it can come out of burst, but you're not ever going to think of it that way. Unless you have an overwhelming amount of blocker cards in your list, then you play this, but you have to take a look at what you pulled. If not, yeah, I wouldn't even touch this card. Stuff like Zeon Remnant Forces, I know a lot of people were saying like you do use this. I don't think you use this card. I pulled this maybe every single time and I didn't use this card whatsoever. And it's just not that good. Just for that one reach, but like you can't really control your numbers in this particular format. So you're not like always having just that one reach away from something. I would just do without this. 1 damage for 1 whole card is not good enough. Now, this is a way better card than that last one. Choosing 1 unit with 2 or less AP, you're probably going to see a lot of cards in this particular format that have less than 2 AP. And so this is going to have a lot of targets. And it's also a pilot on top of that. Something like Deep Devotion is just completely unplayable, even if it is a hybrid card. I do love how this card looks. The art is just fantastic, but you're almost always never going to get a link. If you do, that's awesome, congratulations, but otherwise this is not going to be something you're going to see all the time. And for the last time I'm going to go over, Dozel is an insane card to get in this particular format. He just pushes this 1 card to 2 cards on your board. He just makes you just go that much faster. If you pull 2 of these, play both of those. This card is nuts. And plus it's a pilot that can give you +1 to give you that extra math that you need in order to get those kills in. Just, man, this card is a good card. And let's, we're going to go over some of the pilots here. Long story short, all pilots that give at least +1/+1 stat are pretty decent. Quite honestly, I would almost look for pilots that have the +1/+2 stat line instead, if you are able to. For example, something like Dual Maxwell gives that +1/+2 stat line. It doesn't have anything to do in its link but you're using it for that additional stat. So don't always look for its effect and you think, oh, the effect is not good, we're not going to use this card. However, if you can use the effect, that's even better. Now, some stores allowed you to use the Banagher, some stores did not, because you automatically just, every deck had a link there. But if you pull in unicorns or destroy modes, this is an immediate include because it gives you +2/+2. So if you pulled it from your pack, guys, definitely use Banagher. +2/+2 is the most insane. I think he's actually like one of the strongest pilots that's actually in the set itself and not in the starter decks. If your deck contains a good amount of blue cards, you don't need to contain all blue cards, of course, but let's say you contain like maybe 5 or 6, right? Sailor Moss becomes just that much better of a card, providing those stats, and of course, giving that repair +1. This is the same case with Cagali. I keep butchering his name. I'm just gonna say Yuo. That's the easiest part of the name for me to say. But if, of course, if you have a lot of white units in his deck as well, just think of it, can you get this off? But at the same time, you're really just looking for the stats. I wouldn't use too many pilots. If you're asking how many pilots you should use, maybe around 4 or less. So probably just keep it around that range. So if you think about the bases, the commands, and the pilots, you could say that's maybe 8 cards of your entire list in that combination, all of those, and the rest is just units. You want a significant amount of units over the rest because that's how you're actually going to win the game. Enhanced number 4 can actually be one of the best that I found. Of course, it really depends on your opponent. Happen to have like a 0-2 in play, just leave it alone and just have this guy recover. Similar to Sailor Moss being on a blue creature, this thing can almost recover 2 times before it even becomes your turn again. So it's just really, really interesting. I've had really a lot of success with this, and at the same time, it gives you that +2 attack, which is really, really good. All right, guys, that's pretty much my tips there. One more time, just try to stick to only 8 non-unit cards, maybe 10, only if your non-unit cards are really, really, really good and you just cannot do without them. And of course, when it comes to your units, stick to the 2 to level 4 range. Omit as many level 1s, you don't really need them. The level 5s, they become iffy unless they're actually really, really strong. And your level 6, you really need to pay attention to their effects. Are they worth it? But at the same time, play your super high cost cards such as your level 7s, your 8s, because those are going to be almost impossible for your opponents to remove. All right, guys, if you have any more tips for the community, go ahead and put them in the comments down below. And of course, if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe to the video, guys. We're going to be doing a lot more Gundam content here. Of course, we're doing a lot more Gundam card game content, as you can have seen as of recently, because that game just released and there's just a lot of things I want to go over with you. I will be sharing you some more deck tips in the future. And maybe we'll have to see. I want to see how we're going to go about this because your boy needs to keep some things in his chamber. But maybe if we get our subscribers up, guys, I might start revealing some of our actual decks around here because your boy has been cooking. If you want to check out more Gundam content, check out these videos right here. And of course, for other mecha content, these videos right here. I know life can be hard out there, guys, but keep your head up, keep moving forward, and most importantly, let nothing stop you. Peace out, guys.